gieo mầm yêu thương, hạnh phúc đồng hành cùng con trẻ. Gieo mầm yêu thương.
Hello, everybody. You are listening to the bilingual fairy tale series, a product from Cultural House of Youth in Ho Chi Minh City. Hello, everyone. Today, we will dive into a brand new adventure. The story we are about to read today is named King THRUSHBEARD. Sounds funny, doesn't it? I wonder where the king's special name comes from. To discover the secret, first, let's introduce ourselves to an arrogant, bossy princess in the fairy tale world. Without any further ado, let's get right into the story, shall we? Once upon a time, in a far, far away kingdom, there was a beautiful princess. The princess was so self-centered that she turned arrogant, believing that no one was good enough for her. The king did not feel the same. One day, the king organized a great party and invited on a young nobleman from near and far away. Anyone who seemed fit to marry the young princess. The king's daughter was forced to take part in the party. She walked through the row of kings, princess, and nobleman. But for every man, she found ways to reject them. She sent up one after another while ridiculing them. She criticized and said, "This one is too fat, like a barrel. This one is as thin as a dry log. Your face is as red as a fighting cock." Next in line was a young king. She made herself especially rude to this man, whose chin had grown a little crooked. She laughed it out loud. "Look, he has a chin like a thrush's beak. I shall call you King THRUSHBEARD." The young king's face was so red from embarrassment and stormed out of the party. The princess's father was very angry to see his daughter being so full of herself. He made a promise to himself that she would marry the very first beggar that came to his doors. A few days afterward, a fiddler came near the castle and sang a song, trying to earn a few pennies. When the king heard him, he called him inside the palace to perform for him and his daughter. When the beggar had finished the song, the king said, "Your song had pleased me so well that I will give you my daughter to marry." The princess felt stone cold, but the king said firmly, "I have taken an oath to give to the very first beggar man, and I will keep it." All her begging was in vain. She sadly obeyed her father and married the fiddler, and unhappily followed her husband to her new home. The beggar led her on a long journey on foot. On the way to her new home, they came across a large forest, a beautiful green meadow, along with a large, wealthy town. She asked, "To whom do those beautiful places belong?" "They belong to King THRUSHBEARD. If you had married him, they would have been yours." "Oh dear, I feel pity for the young princess." Perhaps she was now regretting more than ever for not marrying King THRUSHBEARD. But it was all too late now. I am curious to see how the spoiled princess could adapt to the new life of the peasant. Let's continue the story to see what awkward situation the princess would find herself in. At last, they had arrived at the small little hut. The princess had to crouch down in order to enter the home, feeling extremely miserable. the beggar man said to his new wife, "There are no servants for you. You must do everything by yourself. Please make a fire and boil some water to cook my supper. I am quite tired." But the king's daughter knew nothing about lighting fires or cooking. The beggar had to do it himself for anything to be done. When they had finished their simple and planned meal, they went to bed. Early in the next morning, the beggar woke his wife up for chores. After a few days, they had spent their last penny. The beggar said, "We cannot live like this any longer. We need to make money. I will teach you how to make more baskets to sell." However, the tough willows wounded the princess's delicate hands. Her husband suggested that she spin cloth instead. When she tried to spin, the hard thread cut her soft fingers until they bled. The husband sighed. "You are fit for no sort of work. I have made a bad bargain with you. Now I will try to switch over to pottery business. Your job is to sit in the marketplace and sell them." The princess was so embarrassed, thinking if anyone in the kingdom recognized her as the king's daughter, they would mock her. But she had no choice. They needed food to eat. On the first day, the business went very well. All the villagers were very happy to buy from such a good-looking woman. They paid without a bargain. The couple had made enough to live for a few days. Then the husband bought a new set of pots. With this, she sat down at the front of the marketplace, selling it around her and ready for sale. Suddenly, there came a drunken horseman galloping along, and he rolled right into the pots, causing them to break into 1,000 pieces. The princess began to weep and ran home, telling her husband all about the misfortune. The man groaned. Who will seat herself at the front of the marketplace with pots? Please stop crying. I have been to the king's palace and asked for you to be a kitchen maid. Hopefully, you won't mess up this time. The king's daughter was now a kitchen maid and had to do all the dirtiest work. The princess had now learned to work hard without complaining. In both of her pockets, she hid a little jar, in which she took home the spare food from the royal dinner. With this spare food, the princess and her husband lived quite comfortably. One day, the palace celebrated the wedding of the king. The poor kitchen maid went up to see the ceremony. As she peeked through the doors of the hallway, she saw plenty of beautiful people and splendid decorations. Her heart throbbed when she thought that her wedding might be this grand if she had not been so arrogant and agreed to marry one of the kings. Her life wouldn't have been this miserable. Suddenly, the king entered through the door, clothed in a magnificent royal suit. He seized her by the hand and asked her to dance with him. But she refused and shook with fear. For now, she saw that it was King THRUSHBEARD, the man who she once insulted. While struggling with the king, the string tightened the jar in her pocket snapped. The jars of food fell down. The soup poured out, and scraps of food were scattered all over the place. When the party guests saw the scene, they burst into laughter and mocked her. The princess was so ashamed that her tears started to roll down. She sprang to the door, tried to run down the stairs, but instantly a man caught her arm. It was King THRUSHBEARD again. He said kindly, "Do not be afraid. I am the fiddler who has been living with you in that tiny hut. For loving you so much, I had disguised myself to teach you a lesson. I was also the horseman who rode through your paths. This was all done to humble your proud spirit and to punish you for mocking me." The poor princess wept and said, "I have done so many wrong things. Therefore, I am not worthy to be your wife." King THRUSHBEARD looked at her with gentle eyes and said, "Put your mind at ease, my dear. The difficult days have passed. Now we will celebrate our wedding. Today is all about you." The maids came in and dressed the young princess the most splendid clothing. King THRUSHBEARD even invited the princess's father and his whole court to come, wishing her a happy marriage. The joy now began. It was the biggest, grandest wedding the kingdom had ever witnessed. Oh my, I wish we could enjoy the royal wedding as well, right, children? I wonder if King THRUSHBEARD and the princess's father had made a secret agreement to teach the princess a deserving lesson. But it's fortunate that in the end, she was no longer so full of herself and got a happy ending with King THRUSHBEARD. Arrogance can lead to terrible consequences, don't you think? It is also the end of our story today. Hopefully, we will meet again soon in the next story. Goodbye and stay safe.
Gieo mầm yêu thương hạnh phúc